Thailand. Here, the Mekong River winds its way through a biological and geological crossroads, where the temperate and tropical collide. It's a place of 1,000 landscapes, dominated by lush forests, rolling hills, and extensive river systems that feed into the mighty Mekong. This varied topography gives rise to endless microclimates, making Thailand one of the most biodiverse countries on Earth. As the Mekong carves its way down Thailand's eastern border, it sculpts the landscape and the lives of the creatures that live there. From mountain streams to the deepest caves, Thailand boasts a dazzling array of wildlife unlike any other. The Mekong enters Thailand through the Northern Highlands, a range of mountains that spans the entire width of the country. These are the distant foothills of the Himalayas. Mysterious cloud formations envelop the forest. Huge expanses of jungle are broken up by a network of waterways. In a quiet tributary off the Mekong, a female elephant enjoys a well-deserved bath. Her calf lags behind. Despite her encouragement, he's reluctant to join. The Mekong and its tributaries play an important role in the lives of the region's elephants. An adult will drink around 100 litres of water daily. She shows him what he's missing. It's too much to resist. As her calf enters the river, her demeanor suddenly changes. She senses danger. With her trunk raised like a periscope, she sniffs the air. The trunk is packed full of thousands of scent receptors, giving her one of the best senses of smell in the animal kingdom. The danger passes and she relaxes once more. The bond between a mother and calf is intimate. She rarely lets go as they play in the river. From its origin in Tibet, the Mekong travels 1,400 miles south before it reaches northern Thailand and begins its journey east along the border with Laos. These mountain forests are home to one of Thailand's most versatile creatures. Rhesus macaques live along the rivers and streams that flow through the mountains and into the Mekong. These waterways are their favorite place to forage and have a refreshing drink. Some are hesitant, while others adopt a more immersive approach. Macaques can swim at only a few days old, and adults often swim over half a kilometre in search of better food and shelter. They prefer fruit, but just about everything is on the menu. They'll happily eat bark, leaves, and any small creatures they can catch in the shallows. But macaques are most vulnerable on the ground. They have many predators here in the hills, such as leopards, crocodiles, and even tigers. To reduce the time they spend foraging at the river, they hoard food in their cheeks. When their pouches are bulging, they retreat to the canopy to enjoy the spoils. This troop has brought the whole family. It's all a bit of fun to start with. But these cheeky youngsters soon fall in line. They learn by example. Their tiny fingers are perfectly suited to the task. The tastiest treats lie hidden beneath the leaf litter. The challenge is finding them. The macaque's generalist diet is perfectly suited to this jungle environment. Thailand is one of the most biodiverse areas in the world. The foundation of this natural splendor is the region's plant life. Boasting 8% of the world's plant species, these jungles are a melting pot of temperate plants from the Himalayas in the north and tropical species from the south. Competition between plants is fierce. They wage a constant battle for space and light. They must also protect themselves against being eaten. Many are poisonous. And for creatures like macaques that eat as many as 99 different plant species, these natural defenses could be deadly. But macaques have learned a surprising way to cope with these harmful toxins. They have a natural remedy that the elder generation must teach to the next. The next morning, the troop is on their mission. They're following a tributary of the Mekong through the jungle. Most know where they're going, but not these three youngsters. It's their first time. They need to pay attention. This is a lesson for life. The troop draws to a halt at these earthen caves not far from the river. The macaques are here to eat the soil. It's their antidote. Many of the plants in the macaques' diet are poisonous, and harmful toxins build up in their stomachs. Each mouthful of clay gives them a dose of a mineral called kaolin, which neutralizes the toxins. But getting a mouthful isn't that easy. The youngsters find that it takes a bit of getting used to. In the cramped conditions, tempers flare. A dominant male steps in. Teeth chattering is a sign of submission. These troublemakers don't want to risk a fight. Some friendly grooming goes a long way to iron out any tension. Despite the troop returning year after year to dig out the clay, these curious caves weren't carved out by just the macaques. It takes a far larger creature to excavate on this scale. A bull elephant heads off into the hills. Like the macaques, he is after minerals in the clay. But when you're 2 meters tall, the difficulty is getting a mouthful. His one tusk is a reminder of the damage elephants can inflict on each other. Fortunately, even with one tusk, he's perfectly equipped to solve the problem. First, he loosens the clay with his tusk. Then his extraordinary trunk does the rest. His trunk has a highly sensitive finger-like tip, which gives him remarkable dexterity. He can even pick up grains of rice. Where the macaques require the minerals to break down toxins, elephants come to supplement their diet. Although they consume 10% of their body weight each day, the plants they eat don't provide them with the salt, calcium and iron that they need. The clay gives them what the plants can't, a simple adaptation that keeps these giants healthy. Like many nations along the Mekong, Thailand is transforming from primary forests into fertile paddy fields. Much of the nation's wealth comes from its natural resources. But the more these resources are exploited, the fewer that remain for the natural world. This happens at the expense of most creatures, but not all. Some have learned to live alongside people, and in some cases it's them exploiting us. An old Buddhist temple by a riverbank is home to one such animal. A colony of flying foxes. Despite their name, which refers to their fox-like faces, these impressive bats eat fruit, not meat. With a wingspan of 1.5 meters, they are the largest bats on the planet. Unlike their insect-eating counterparts, which tend to roost in caves during the day, flying foxes are well adapted to daylight. They roost in trees out in the open, but without the protection of a cave, their challenge is finding somewhere safe. Flying foxes are found throughout the forests of Southeast Asia. But surprisingly, they are equally happy living alongside people. The trees within the temple grounds make an ideal home. The colony is sheltered from the elements, and the daily bustle of monks and visitors keeps predators at bay. Every morning, thousands of bats return to the roost. Flying foxes are very picky when it comes to choosing a tree in which to spend the day. It's a decision that relates to their size and the way they take off. Rather than lifting off, they freefall into flight. To give themselves the best chance of success, they need conditions to work in their favor. The tall trees give them time and space to open their vast wings as they fall. Shelter from any wind allows them to catch updrafts. Like all flying creatures, these bats have evolved to be lightweight. Their bones and muscles weigh far less than similarly sized non-flying mammals. As a result, flying foxes can reach astonishing speeds of up to 50 kilometers an hour. But the secret behind their mastery of flight lies within their unusual wings, which are actually large webbed hands. Birds have wings with strong arm bones and feathers, but bats' wings have thin arm bones and a membrane supported by 4 long digits. They are the equivalent of us having giant hands extending 3 to 4 meters on either side. These 4 flexible digits give flying foxes precise control over altitude and direction. For a mammal of their size, the aerial ability of flying foxes is remarkable. True to their name, these bats prefer fruit, but they also feed on nectar, blossoms, and pollen. They organize their territories around fruit-bearing trees, like this albizia, and travel up to 50 kilometers a night to visit their favorite spots. Flying foxes have a special relationship with these feeding trees. As they pass from tree to tree, gorging on fruit and nectar, they swallow a variety of seeds and their fur becomes coated in pollen. In flying such great distances each night, they disperse the seeds and pollen across the region. The service they provide to the forest is so vital that flying foxes are recognized as keystone species, an irreplaceable part of their ecosystem. The beauty of nature is such that the bats benefit as much as the trees. This dispersal service ensures the survival of the trees on which they themselves depend. And their Buddhist temple sanctuary reflects a national view of the natural world. This faith nourishes people's respect for all living things and binds them to their surrounding landscape. Rising nearly 200 meters above the Mekong central floodplains is one of Thailand's true wonders. Wat Phu Tok, the Lonely Temple, also known as the Stairway to Heaven. A temple carved into a giant sandstone outcrop, which can be seen from kilometers around. The 7 levels of stairs and rickety platforms represent the 7 steps towards Buddhist enlightenment. The stairway to heaven is the extraordinary achievement of one monk's search for nirvana. The monk was part of a forest tradition that favoured meditation in the wild, surrounded by the creatures of the jungle. He felt that meditation in dangerous places served to strengthen his spiritual resolve while teaching him to overcome fear. In ages past, the sandstone outcrop would have been part of a vast wind-blown desert, laid down more than 100 million years ago. But time and the river have washed away all but this last stand. A reminder of the powerful forces that shape our planet. Back with the macaques, a young male peels away from the group. He has a dead rodent that he found in the stream. Macaques have 5 different calls to alert the group when they find something to eat. But the wily youngster says nothing. He knows that he risks punishment if he's caught. Unfortunately, his unusual behavior has caught the attention of a rival male. It's too late to hide his treasure now. The rival macaque doesn't make a scene. He has a plan. He acts casual and does his best to look disinterested. But the youngster isn't fooled. From this new vantage point, he can keep an eye on his hungry rival. Macaques live in a complex society. Groups of up to 180 individuals are governed by rules and a strict hierarchy. Although there are both dominant males and females, it's the females who are really in charge. The matriarchal hierarchy is inherited. Privilege is passed from mother to daughter along maternal bloodlines, known as matrilines. Individuals higher up each matriline receive food first and command safer positions within the troop. There is also a hierarchy between the different matrilines in the group. Everyone has a place. The hierarchy is constantly reinforced through social interaction and grooming. Lower-ranking females groom those of a higher rank to gain favour. If you can keep your superiors happy and pest-free, life is good. Families look after their own. This infant might not be doing the best grooming job, but it's the thought that counts, and she'll soon get the hang of it. Like all female macaques, she'll remain in the troop for life. In a healthy troop, a matriline can span 6 generations. Each day around noon, the older generation finds suitable branches to retire for siestas. For most of the troop, this is a daily pleasure. For the young, it's an opportunity to play without supervision. They're always up to mischief, always testing themselves against each other. This boisterous play is a vital part of their development. Young males also inherit the rank of their mothers, but lose this status when they mature and are forced from the troop. These games hone the life skills they'll need to win status in another group. But for now, life is all fun and games. Thailand boasts more than 250 species of mammals. The tropical rainforests that flank the Mekong as it winds its way south are home to most. But many of these species won't be seen in daylight. They're underground. Over the millennia, the Mekong has carved its way through limestone outcrops containing vast networks of caves. These complex caves provide an array of microclimates which attract different bat species. Each species has its own portion of the cave. Tomb bats prefer a higher temperature. Round-leaf bats are so called because of the strange sensory organ on their nose. These organs are not yet fully understood, but thought to be related to a form of nasal echolocation. Roundleafs prefer larger caverns with an abundance of water. Although these caves are enormous, optimal roosting space is at a premium. Life in the seething mass of bodies isn't easy. bats make sense of the mayhem with their exceptional hearing. They can identify individual calls through this wall of noise. During the breeding season, when mothers returned from a night's feed, they must recognize the call of their single pup. One tiny voice in the thousands. This strange community is united by the need for a stable environment and a safe place to spend the day. Bats have evolved to thrive in these dark, humid conditions. They pass the day sleeping, digesting, and grooming. Despite their surroundings, bats keep themselves remarkably clean. Some hang by their feet. Others cling on all fours to the rock face. As dusk approaches, the atmosphere in the colony changes. One by one, the bats shake off the day and launch themselves into the darkness. Taking off in the crowds can be a struggle. And flying in these cramped, pitch-black conditions would seem impossible. But the bats have a solution. They increase the pulse rate of their echolocation to build a more detailed picture of the cave environment. They are also able to fine-tune their own unique frequencies to distinguish them from the rest. Within minutes, thousands of bats stream from the mouth of the cave. The nightly exodus begins. Flying in such crushing numbers requires exceptional skill and lightning reflexes. Bats' wings are physiological masterpieces. Packed with tiny muscles, they move their wings asymmetrically to maintain precision control. They can react to their surroundings in less than the blink of an eye. These bats are heading out to find insects at their favored feeding grounds. Each one can catch up to 1,000 in an hour. Dusk is when their prey is most active. But the bats take a risk, leaving before dark. Predators are still out. An eagle soars overhead. Like a shoal of sardines or a herd of wildebeest, bats play a numbers game. An individual's best chance of survival lies within the colony. The bats each try to maneuver into the heart of the swarm. Those on the outside are the most vulnerable. The eagle selects a target. But it's too hard to focus on a single bat in the mayhem. It hurtles in again, But the bats are too agile. The eagle won't eat tonight. The colony snakes towards its feeding grounds in mesmerizing formations. Their movement is instinctive and coordinated. The bats follow two simple rules. Each maintains a uniform distance between its flock mates, and each follows the path of its immediate neighbors. No single bat is in control, but governed by these rules, the cloud of bats becomes more than the sum of its parts. They are now governed by swarm intelligence. The following morning, the colony of flying foxes returns to roost at the temple along the river. During the day, they snooze in their favored trees, safe in the confines of the temple grounds. They keep their precious wings in order. Bats hang like this because it's energy efficient. Standing upright and defying gravity requires effort. They hang from specially adapted toes. A ratchet system locks their feet in a hooked position. An incredibly useful tool for canopy life. Every so often they wake up to change position or search for a slightly better spot. They clamber around the canopy using their versatile claws. In a crowded tree, it isn't always easy to find what you're after. With thousands of bats living in such close quarters, it's important to get on with your neighbors. Like the macaques, flying foxes groom each other to maintain social harmony. There is also a strict social hierarchy among males, one that relates to their position in the roosting tree. The more important you are, the higher up the tree you go. The strongest males are at the top, and the younger and weaker are relegated to the lower branches. Sexually mature females like this one are even given the rule of the roost. She may hang wherever she pleases. This young male is at the bottom of the hierarchy and has been banished to a separate bachelor tree. These adolescent outcasts will remain here until they can fight their way up the hierarchy. Males spend much of the day squabbling over the best branches. When a snarl isn't enough, they engage in an upside-down fight. The bouts are vicious. They snap at each other, and exchange blows with the razor-sharp claws on their thumbs. Their wing membranes take the brunt of the damage. Fortunately, these battle scars quickly heal, an important evolutionary trait. A flying fox that can't fly will not survive. As dusk falls, a buzz spreads through the colony. It's time to feed. They leave the sanctuary of the temple and, using the river for navigation, head off into the night sky. The animals that make the Mekong their home have evolved to exploit these habitats in many different ways. In taking to the air, flying foxes reap the rewards of the canopy. And by dispersing seeds as they travel, they ensure the survival of the fruit trees on which they depend. Other bats retreated into caves, finding the perfect conditions to house their vast colonies. Through their versatile diet, the macaques make the most of the abundant resources. Like the elephants, they exploit the bounty of the very earth itself. The Mekong's journey through Thailand reveals the true wealth of this nation's microclimates and extraordinary biodiversity. It's the source of life for the creatures that live here, now and for the generations to come.